Rage 2 drops you into a post-apocalyptic world. A world where, yes, society has fallen apart, but it's also started to rebuild. It creates this environment that looks like if Mad Max had accidentally fallen inside of a neon sign, and it's awesome. For those of you that haven't played the first game but want to jump into this new sequel, no worries, you'll be just fine doing that. Rage 2 takes place 30 years after the events of the first game with a completely new character. You play as Walker, the last ranger of their kind. Think of them as a super soldier. After an asteroid destroyed most of humanity, factions began to rebuild, and among them was the Authority, the quote-unquote bad faction. They're a military power set on taking over the world now that the government has been completely wiped. As a ranger, you have the power of nanotech on your side. It's a piece of technology that grants you new combat abilities with every new arc piece that you collect. Over the course of its campaign, which can take you anywhere between 10 to 20 hours depending on how much time you invest into side missions, you'll meet some old and familiar faces. However, most of these interactions are written in the sense to be a soft reboot for the series, making it easy for newcomers to jump into Rage 2 for the first time. Overall, the story does a good job at padding out the missions with context, but not so much at really driving an interesting narrative. That's mostly because, like other id Software games, most of the entertainment comes from the gameplay, and Rage 2 is no different. Rage 2 is a collaborative effort between id Software and Avalanche Studios. id Software previously made the 2016 reboot of Doom, and Avalanche Studios most recently worked on Just Cause 4, but also has worked on the cult classic Mad Max game back in 2015. Together the two work on this joint venture to create one marvelous badass game. In that sense, Rage 2 encompasses a lot of the design language from Doom when it comes to the gunplay, but then features the open world design talents of Avalanche Studios. It doesn't take long to see the fruits of this collaborative effort either. Upon selecting your character's gender and completing a quick introduction mission, you are thrusted into this neon wasteland. It's a large and very lived-in world. Factions and strongholds are scattered throughout it, with missions constantly in between. Speaking of missions, let's talk about their structure. Very early on, you're introduced to these three characters that act as mission guides. They assign you missions throughout the open world, and it's completely up to you in which order you take them on. It all lends to the idea that this is a very open game. No matter where you are, chances are that there's an objective nearby that you can complete. It never feels like you're wasting your time exploring because every little action works towards an objective. Early on, these objectives can come off a bit repetitive though. You'll mostly be tasked with taking out goons at specific outposts or blowing up propane tanks. Yeah, it's repetitive, but I surprisingly didn't mind it as much thanks to the incredibly entertaining gunplay. Now, while it isn't one-to-one with Doom, you definitely feel that design language here. Movement is fast-paced, guns feel impactful, and the mixing of the two along with your special abilities makes for some amazing combos. As you rack up kills, you'll also gain your overdrive meter that buffs up all your combat moves. Initially, I was hesitant to even use it because I thought it was supposed to be used in more rare occasions, but I quickly found out it's a tool that can be constantly refilled very quickly. Using it constantly in waves of enemies made for some great adrenaline rushing rampages. Later on, when quests and larger scale boss fights became more varied, the combat really started to shine for the fun that it is. A drawback though is the management system for the combat. Unlocking things is fairly easy in the sense that you're not leveling up, but rather just using currencies to unlock new abilities. Other games have followed the same mechanic and have done it well, but Rage 2 has a bunch of different skill trees and currencies that make managing everything a bit cumbersome. For example, each of the quest giver characters have their own skill tree. Each gun has its own upgrade tree, and each ability has a modifying tree. Even the car you drive around in has an upgrade tree. I often find myself just scrolling through the menus trying to make sure I wasn't missing anything that could have been upgraded that I accidentally missed. Oh yeah, cars. Those are here, and they're alright. They're certainly not my favorite part of Rage 2, they do their job of getting you around the world, but I personally didn't enjoy them too much. Any vehicle you see operating in the world you can pretty much take for yourself and drive around. Aside from using them to traverse the world, you can challenge NPC characters to races or use vehicles with weapons to take out enemies. It's not just cars, there's air vehicles too. They're great for getting to spots that don't have a fast travel point yet, but usually if I could make the walk towards somewhere, I just choose to go on foot over the vehicle. There's just something about how they handled that I didn't enjoy too much. Ultimately, I found the campaign to be entertaining with gameplay that felt reminiscent of Doom's gunplay in a less linear fashion. Its open world is populated with plenty to do in terms of side missions that it could extend the length of play up to 20 hours, but if you're eager enough, you can completely finish this in a single day too. The driving mechanics felt competent, but they weren't as fun as just annihilating mutants left and right. Rage 2 has a balance of looking beautiful and ugly. Sometimes textures would be pretty low resolution, lighting can look off at times, and there's a handful of pop-in scenarios, just traveling throughout the open world. On the flip side, when it does look good, it's absolutely gorgeous. The mix of wasteland and vibrant neon colors is an odd yet brilliant combination. Anytime I found myself having a shootout with hordes, the firefight in front of me always looked like a Blade Runner fireworks show. It's an aesthetic that I hope continues on with the series because it's truly stunning. Now for my review, I primarily played on the PC with a rig running a GTX 1070 and an i7-4790K. With this setup, I was able to play at high to ultra settings while maintaining a mostly 1080p 60 performance. I did see a few dips into the mid 50 range, but luckily there are a few tools here to help you out. You can turn on a dynamic resolution scaler that helps you hit your target frame rate, and it worked pretty well for me. On the console front, PS4 Pro and Xbox One X both run the game at 1080p with a frame rate ranging between 50 to 60 frames per second. The base consoles drop the frame rate down to 30 FPS while the PS4 keeps its resolution at 1080p and the Xbox One sits at 900p. If anything, Rage 2 really shows the age of some of the base consoles. It's dated tech and only increasingly shows the need for the next generation. Now let's just get this out of the way, Rage 2's soundtrack isn't Doom 2016's. I know a lot of people going into this game are going to wonder about that, and while it's not the same team, there's some hints of it here. There's some loud guitar intros to each track that almost sound like the Doom soundtrack, but quickly become more filler tunes for firefights. They also don't seem to sync well with the gameplay. I had a few moments where music just straight up stopped and then came back like if something didn't activate correctly. When it didn't randomly cut out, it didn't always sync up to the combat very well. On the brighter side, I thought the voice acting throughout the story was well done. I wasn't able to pick up any recognizable voice actors, but I think that speaks more to how well the performances here are. The real star of the show, though, were the weapons that sound great and powerful. Shooting them were always a figurative and literal blast, and most of that was thanks to their excellent audio work. Rage 2 was a joy to run through. It wasn't as long as I expected it to be, but the way it's designed allows it to be a game that you can easily run through in a day or extend for a longer time if you want to explore. Its gameplay truly feels like the best of id Software and Avalanche Studios coming together to make something invigorating and captivating, even if a few blemishes came along with it.